Hi there. So for today's discussion, I will be talking about my biggest takeaways for the five directives, directives 3 through 7, and I will go in order and I'll list them as I go. So for the first directive, directive 3, one of the most important things that I took away was that a public speaker's most important thing to do is prepare, prepare, prepare. Preparation is not an option when it comes to the quality of your speech. Part of that preparation is time management. It's the absolute foundation of your preparation. Um, some ways that you can do that is to learn about your speech, where it will be, who you're speaking to, really hone down on what your speech is going to be about. Another way that you can prepare for your speech is practice purposeful neglect, which is essentially reprioritizing your things. If you want to sit and watch TV over practicing your speech, that is not purposeful neglect. Taking that time to really make your speech your priority is huge. Some other ways that you can prepare are your emotional, mental, and physical being. So with emotional, as we've talked about before, acknowledging your fear, addressing it, really understanding that there's no way to get rid of your fear is huge. You can visit the speaking location, kind of understand your surroundings, know what you're getting yourself into, and of course, look your best, because if you look your best, you're going to feel your best. Another thing is your mental well-being. You can analyze your audience, figure out who you're going to be speaking to, what information you're going to be conveying to them, and, embrace direction. Do what you were told to do, essentially. If you're going to write a speech about apples, talk about apples. And of course, have a plan for that. You need to organize your thoughts just as much as you need to organize your speech. And of course, physical. You want to eat well, sleep well, and exercise. Exercise actually creates clarity on the brain. So preparation really has so many layers to it, but they're all really important to the outcome of your speech. So with Directive 4, something that I really took away was the structure of your speech. Most importantly is your intro. This is your one chance to get your audience interested, get them hooked. You really want to wow your audience with your intro. If they lose you in the intro, they're going to lose you through the whole speech. But ultimately, the whole structure of your speech is what allows the audience to keep up with the information that you're giving them. You don't want them to get lost in your story. Within that structure, of course, you have your thesis, which is going to be kind of your broad, this is what we're going to be talking about. And then after that, you start breaking down the body, which is going to have the details for each of your topics. But between those bodies, you have to have a smooth transition. You can't just be bopping around from topic to topic. They have to kind of coexist with each other. Once you do that, of course, you want to reinstate your thesis. Just be like, hey, gentle reminder, this is what the bulk of this speech is supposed to be. You want to summarize the most important parts of your part. And then you get a conclusion, which really is like your last impression on your audience, which kind of closes the deal. And just like your speech, you have to have an organized mind. You cannot go into this willy-nilly. It all comes back to preparation and practice. So for Directive 5, this is when we talk about the logos, ethos, and pathos, which is very interesting because when you really break it down, it really comes down to, can you trust me? Can you trust with what I'm saying? So you start with that with your pathos and your logos, which is essentially your emotion and logic. Pathos, emotion, can look like a well-told narrative. Of course, your appearance, how you look. You really want to work tools like your eye contact. Pathos is really anything that the speaker does to connect to the audience, to show you're human too, You feel things, and hopefully the audience can feel those things too. But you can't just hit people with a bunch of emotion. They're not going to take you seriously. So you have to incorporate the logos, which is your logic. This can look like, for one, just the basic structure of your speech. But of course, within that, you want to do your basic research. And ideally, some really deep dive research. If you can hit people with, I got this information from this credible source, I'm not just throwing out information opinion-based, they'll take you a little bit more seriously. You can also use rhetorical questions, which kind of allows your audience to be a part of your speech because they can kind of answer the question on their own and how they see it before you give them your answer. So logos is essentially anything the speaker does to connect with the audience logically. And with those two, you become a lot more credible. People can trust you a lot more. A great example that the instructor used was his watch story. He wrote a letter to the owner of this watch company, initially very emotional, kind of rageful, really giving it to him. And he noticed realistically, this is going to get thrown in the trash. No one's going to take me seriously. So he took a step back. He rewrote his letter. He not only quoted the owner directly to give his logic structure of this is what you said, not me, but also the emotional side of this is me on the other end of that quote, and this is what I'm experiencing. And because of that, the owner took him a little bit more seriously, and ultimately, he won the reader over. He got a new watch. And with that, with just that example alone, it just shows that the speaker really has to commit to their performance. Just do it. Just go all in. For Directive 6, this one was big because it does circle back to everything that we talked about in Module 1, where essentially if you can follow directions, you'll do fine. Performing is mostly following directions. Of course, there's some talent in it, but ultimately, if you do what you're told to do in the way you're supposed to do it, you will succeed. And in that is how you practice. If you can practice in a way that reflects how you want your performance to be, and ideally, um, sorry, ideally, you want to practice, full in. You want to stand up, you want to look your best, you want to practice your speech. You can't be lounging on the couch because you have muscle memory. If you're lounging during practice, you're going to lounge during your performance. So if you give it your all during your practice, you'll give it your all during your performance. Um, Practicing is key, honestly. I mean, the way you can practice is learn how to command the room. You know, be kind of an authority figure in that sense. And, you want to take control of the moment. If something is dimming your light, there's furniture in the room that you don't like, sorry, get rid of it, do what makes you more confident in that moment. You want to commit to your introduction too, of course. That again, that is how you're going to get your audience in. You want to find the happy faces in the room, forget about the people that are bored and don't want to be there. And of course, use your pauses. Ask those rhetorical questions. Use those pauses. There's nothing louder than controlled silence. And then for Directive 7, um, this is really about taking opportunity where it presents itself. You want to take an opportunity to speak any chance you get, not just for this class. This isn't just for speech class, but in a general sense. If you're trying to achieve anything and be better at anything, take your opportunities where they come to not only gain experience, but practice. Because even if you fail in that moment, at least you got practice and at least you got some experience. He used a great example with the Beatles going to Germany and playing for free for 2 years, which to most sounds insane, but they got to hone down their practice. They nailed their tools and their voice, and they figured out what worked just through experience and practice. It takes about 10,000 hours to be certified successful in your field. So take every opportunity you get to practice and gain experience and just try it, and give it your all more than anything. Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.